Hi, this is Tim in Oregon, and we're sharing some hints about what life's all about. So today, maybe we can discuss what Dwayne Hepner, who's the creator of the new presentation, has said that about to have the heart of a child, pure and real, is the true purpose of life. That sounds like that's very important stuff about the true purpose of life. So I'll read a little bit out of a book called Your Dream Visions, which is New Book 6 by Dwayne, the great writer. And I'll just read a little bit here about what he has to say. If one waits too long in pursuing what the real guides are presenting right now, then it will be another dead life, and on into an unknown future of coming back here the same way as this time, unconscious and still wandering around to find some real answers. One of the first things everyone needs to know is where they came from. There are a lot of stories on the earth from many sources, but anyone can access all the knowledge they need from their dream visions. Then, as one stays with what the real guides are presenting, they will come to realize and perceive what the whole of life is all about. So that seems to be connecting to the heart of a child. So let's see. Does a child's heart change automatically, or is it influenced by, in this physical, all these outer things that take place in a child's life, who they're around and how the beings, the people, or whatever they're around do and what they say, and it's interesting to think about a child's heart. We all were children once, and how our hearts were. What was it? Were we in the now, just experiencing it at that time? Did we have any ideas or things about some future, or maybe we had some recollection of certain things that had already taken place in our young lives? And why would a child be interested in anything but what's affecting them right at the time being, the here and now? Would it be interested in other things that are going on that it knows isn't experiencing right at that time? And do they think about, when we're a child, do we think about, oh, we're going to live forever, or what we're going to be, and then there's things like this child's pleasure principle that Dwayne talks about, and it seems like it is indeed, he says, it is indeed fortunate that a young child does not possess the strength, coordination, and ingenuity of most adults, because if it were so, they would almost certainly and uninhibitedly wipe out any opposition to their satisfaction with the pleasure they are always seeking. Because children are such, they are the innocent ones until the time comes when they must learn to face themselves. It's just trying to understand or remember, or the child's part, being pure and real. And how that connects with things like the pleasure principle. The child is wanting to be taken care of when it's hungry or when it needs its diaper changed or things like that. What is pure and real about the heart of a child? Does anybody want to say anything about that?
Well, I guess we were all there at one point. This is Dean Val from Huntington Beach. And we seem to grow out of it. But at one point, like you said, Tim, the child doesn't think about the future too much or plans he's making. It's more he's in the now. He's living from the now. But then again, being in creation, there's other things going on. So as Dwayne puts it, children, animals too, who are in the now, basically living with the environment, they still need to recognize, they have this purity and sincerity, but they don't have the recognition yet that they are what they are, the real awareness. So it's kind of interesting the way it works. It's that they're pure, but then they grow out of it. When they grow out of it, well, then you can start seeing what you really are. But as you grow out of it, you lose that sincerity. Many people do in their purity. So you have to kind of reclaim that again, and then go from there to recognize the real awareness. So it's kind of interesting the way it works. But animals too, they're pure, but they don't, they're in a way not self-aware yet. They're just aware of what is, but not self-aware in a sense. So to get the whole picture, we go there too. We have to recognize everything, that is.
Yeah, well, thanks. It's another thing is, why would the heart of a child think there are real guides unless they're experiencing them? Why would they have any idea that real guides exist unless in their dreams or something, or possibly in their physical bodies, they're having experiences with real guides, what we call real guides. And then we get into things like Dwayne says, imagination is the key to the secret universes. That is when it is properly developed within one and maintained as the reality it is. And these hints of the four main attributes, which are the true actualities from the real position of life, that of purity, sincerity, gratitude, and humility. So the child's heart, it sounds like if that's the purpose, the pure and real child's heart is the purpose of life. How would we find out or be pure and real like that of a child if that's our main purpose? And that gets into what is a purpose. Is it something that we want to do?
These are questions we all have to answer, yes, or not, but to look at least, because they do come up for everybody. You mentioned maintain. You mentioned the imagination. That's one thing we have to work with, like a tool. and maintaining that it is a reality. That's kind of interesting to me too. That it is a reality. Most people think it's a fantasy or something they just thought of, but actually it's a reality. And even just recognizing that, you can further your recognition about things, the world, that it is a reality. Or you could say somewhere it's a reality, but it's actually as real or more so than physical. So
that's just like we're talking about this heart of a child. Unless a person is having real experiences with real guides, like Dwayne or Rebazar or Paul or Pooby or Yabel or Gopal or Kata or Lies or Toart or Ram, me. It is almost like we're imagining they exist. It's just hard to understand this child's heart of why would a person be trying to share things with others so that they get the idea of what life is all about, and to have I guess what would be called a so much better experience or life where there is no authorities and restrictions and pain and suffering and starvation and disease and all these things that we seem to need to go through on this earth realm, so that we can recognize that those are things that we wouldn't want to be experiencing or cause to others to experience. All this brutalitarian stuff and beings from other planets affecting our lives here. Probably all part of the teaching or things that we need to experience, but it just seems there's so much that that our little minds don't seem to be able to really know about actually what life's all about. It's just, if it's all right now, this is all there is, and the other things like the memory body or something, that's just part of now, that you can like time travel into your past, but it's still the same. It's all right now that you're remembering or imagining even the future. Seems like that's still right now. You're just thinking about another time, but it's in this present time you're thinking of it. Anyway, there's so many things about this real purpose of life, having the heart of a child that's pure and real, being the real purpose of life. And
I'm reminded of Luther Standing Bear. He talked about how getting away from nature, people's heart becomes hardened, and they lose perspective. He didn't say it in those words exactly, but it was just basically when you lose your contact and relationship with nature, which we have, then you become, competitive and hardened and disgruntled, and all these things that we have today. And look at the indigenous people and how you hear the American Indian, pretty much a lot of them welcomed the white man with open arms and greeted them and very hospitable and gave them, food and shelter, and were just really, they were like childlike almost when reports from the white men, early reports from the white men's diaries, and even the Spaniards, they talk about they were almost childlike in their nature because they were so, in a sense, pure because they were living with nature. I mean, that's one way to keep that essence. It's not everything.
Do you see?
It's close.
Do you see them as once we were them and that we had purity and sincerity and gratitude and humility?
Yeah,
at
that's
that
funny.
time?
Yeah, sure. And then it's like then you become, hardened once you get the hard knocks. I mean, once they found out that the white men weren't as innocent as they were. I mean, look at the Indians right now. They still have an attitude against the white men. So they've kind of went the other way. And it's just understandable, but, they were taken advantage of. So now they have a huge attitude about what happened to them, the genocide and taking their land and freedoms away. So it goes back and forth. We've been there before, yeah. So life is not easy. We were the pure ones, and then life comes along, or the negative forces come along, and you get battered around. And let's see what happens if you can maintain some kind of recognition, or you could have an attitude, and just live with that attitude and be like they are, competitive and aggressive and all that. It's not an easy place, any way you look at it. I mean, creation innately is distorted. I mean, there's good parts to it, but it's not the isness that we're talking about. This pure positive, like Paul talked about, pure positive. There's no negativity in it.
That's interesting, Val. When we talk about the white man coming to this continent where the natives had migrated to in previous centuries or however it worked, then we got to get into the reasons of why they came here and also what made them the way they were to the natives. Why would they be taking advantage of their fellow beings at all anyway? Why wouldn't they just be getting along in harmony and just being the same as the natives themselves, which they must have been in this cause and effect creation psych realm sometime or another? Is that the hardening of their hearts from the pure and real heart of a child that they no longer had, but seemingly the natives still had the heart of a child in comparison to all this stuff that had taken place with the white man being so brutalitarian and shooting them or using them as slaves, come over here and be authoritarians and conquerors and kick them off their land and kill the buffalo, and on the stories we know of what I guess we call it white man, but there were reasons that made white man that way, and that's kind of what we're getting at about these hints of what everything's all about, what life's all about, and these lessons that we have to go through. It's just like the natives being exposed to the white man now have picked up their similarities of their brutal ways of drunkenness and violence, and they're not looking to, I guess, what you would call much different than the white man. They're interested in the material things of life, their snowmobiles or their cars or jewelry or things like this. It's just like being a child. And what would harden our hearts? We observe certain things going on and we try to wonder, why would somebody throw kittens into a blazing barrel, or some terrible thing that we see as a child that affects us and makes us wonder about life, and why would somebody do these things? It's like we're aware of brutalitarians causing wars on this earth, and these beings from other planets like reptilians using us, all of us, it sounds like, for their reasons, for wanting to be worshipped or have a power over others to make them do what they want secretly, and we're so unaware of how they're affecting us. It seems like it's almost like you blame something else for the change that takes place from having the heart of a child. The effects, but then it gets into things like cause and effects, and maybe in previous lives we have to experience the effects of the causes that we had created that we don't remember in these new human bodies when we come back into this physical realm in one planet or another, or one race or another, or all these things. So it gets down to about what's really important, what is important in life, and isn't that the purpose of life? What the importance is? To have the heart of a child, to be pure and real. If everyone was that way, you wouldn't think a child would want to be out there trying to poison others or other things that seem to be going on in this psych realm stuff that we're experiencing.